You know, in today's world, technology is everything. It's what sets the course for your entire business. So ask yourself, is your tech holding you back, kind of like a roadblock? Or is it a full-on growth engine, blasting you past the competition? It's a huge question, and one you've got to answer. Well, that's exactly where we come in. Here at Strategy Consult, we help turn your tech from just another tool into your #1 advantage. We make sure everything lines up perfectly with your biggest goals, so you can grow smarter, not just work harder. So how do we make it happen? We have this complete start-to-finish approach. First up, strategy and advisory. We map out your best path forward. Then we get to work with development and implementation, building you some seriously solid systems. And finally, we wrap it all up with top-notch governance and risk management to make sure everything is secure, compliant, and built to last. So let's build your future together. Why not check us out at strategyconsult.net or just drop us a line at hello@strategyconsult.net. Let's talk about how we can turn those tech challenges into your biggest wins.
Hey there, and welcome to the Project Manager's Essential Toolbox. Now, if you're managing projects, or you want to be, you already know that success isn't about luck. It's about having the right tools, and more importantly, knowing exactly how to use them. In this session, we're going to build that toolbox together, piece by piece. We'll cover the really critical concepts that, yes, you'll see on certification exams, but you'll also be using these every single day on the job to get your projects delivered on time and on budget.
So before we even open the toolbox, I want to start with a number that should honestly change how you think about project management. As a PM, you can expect to spend up to 90% of your time communicating. Just let that sink in for a second. 90%. And look, we're not talking about sending status updates or writing a few emails. This is the really hard stuff, negotiating with vendors, managing team conflicts, getting stakeholders who all want different things on the same page, and just keeping everyone marching in the same direction. This one number proves that project management is at its heart a communication job. You master this, and you are well on your way to mastering the whole role.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off with the human element. That's all about stakeholder engagement and how to communicate with real impact. From there, we'll dive into how to handle all the curveballs projects throw at you, navigating uncertainty and managing risk. Then we'll get into the numbers, looking at how you can control quality and measure performance. And finally, we'll wrap it all up and put it together in your essential PM toolkit. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, let's get into our first, and I would argue, maybe the most important topic of all: engaging with the people who can truly make or break your project. This is all about mastering that human element. So, our very first tool is the Stakeholder Register. And please, don't let the formal name fool you. Think of this as your project's Who's Who guide. But it's way more than just a contact list. It's a living, breathing document. It's the central place where you identify every single person, every group, every organization that could be impacted by your project or who could impact it themselves. This is your starting point for mapping out the entire human landscape of your project, so you can really understand what people need, what motivates them, and how much influence they really have. Get this right from the start, and I promise you, everything else gets easier.
And this is where that register goes from being just a list to a real strategic tool. As you can see here, we're not just jotting down names, we're doing some serious analysis. Just look at the interest column. The tour sponsor? They care about ROI and brand safety, but the dev team, they're focused on technical success. Those are two very different goals. By writing this down, you can start to see where conflicts might pop up, and you can tailor how you talk to each of them. Knowing that the sponsor has high power and high influence tells you, loud and clear, their concerns have got to be a top priority. This is what turns a simple list into your secret weapon for communication.
Okay, so once you've figured out who your stakeholders are, the next tool helps you figure out how to actually engage with them. This is the Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix, or SEAM. It's a beautifully simple tool that helps you do one critical thing: compare where your stakeholders are right now with where you need them to be for the project to succeed. It's all about finding the gaps so you can start closing them.
And this makes it totally clear. Take a look at Tom Dwyer. We've marked his current state, the C, as resistant. But for our project to work, we need him to be supportive. That's our desired state, the D. See that gap? The space between resistant and supportive? That's our to-do list. It tells us we need a specific plan just for Tom. Maybe that's a one-on-one meeting to really hear his concerns. Maybe it's giving him more data to build his confidence. This little matrix turns those vague gut feelings about people into a concrete, actionable plan.
All right, so that builds perfectly into our next set of tools. We know who we're talking to, We know what they need, so now, how do we make sure our message actually lands, that it gets through clearly and effectively?
Knowing your audience is half the battle. Knowing how to talk to them is the other half. And that means choosing the right communication method for your message. As you see here, it ranges all the way from formal written to informal verbal. You're not going to submit your final project charter to a major sponsor in a casual email, right? No way. That needs a formal written document. But on the flip side, a quick check-in with a developer about a tiny bug, that's perfect for a quick, informal chat. And your stakeholder analysis from before, that helps you decide. A high-power stakeholder might just want brief, formal updates, while your core team members probably need those frequent, informal check-ins.
Okay, time for a quick pop quiz. This is a classic exam-style question. So, Tom Dwyer is pushing back hard on some code reviews that found problems. When you think about all the things that can block communication, which filter is at play here? Just take a second and think about it.
And the answer is dysfunctional emotional behaviors. If you got that, nice job. See, the problem here isn't really about the code review. The problem is Tom's emotional reaction to it. His defensiveness is a filter, and it's blocking the message. Your job as a PM isn't to be a better coder than Tom. Your job is to recognize that emotional filter is up. So instead of arguing about the code, your next move is to address the emotion. You could say something like, "Hey Tom, I can see you're frustrated by this. Let's talk about what's concerning you." By doing that, you lower the barrier and you can actually have a productive conversation.
Every single project is full of unknowns. We call these risks. But here's the thing. Uncertainty isn't always bad. So this next section is all about adding tools to your belt to manage both the threats and the opportunities that are definitely going to pop up.
So when a negative risk, a threat, shows up on your radar, you've basically got 5 main strategies. You can try to avoid it, maybe by changing your plan so the risk isn't an issue anymore. You can transfer it to someone else, kind of like buying insurance. You can mitigate it, which means taking steps to make it less likely to happen or less painful if it does. You can just accept it, do nothing and deal with it if it happens. Or if it's just too big for you to handle, you escalate it to someone higher up. So let's zoom in on one of these.
So what does transfer really mean? Well, you're essentially shifting the negative consequence of a threat, and usually the management of it, onto somebody else. The classic example is just buying insurance for an event, right? But in a tech project, it might mean moving your website to a cloud hosting platform that has a service-level agreement guaranteeing uptime. You're basically paying them a little extra to make that risk their problem, not yours.
And now for the fun part. Risk isn't always bad news. Positive risks are opportunities, and we have 5 strategies for those, too. We can exploit the opportunity. That means going all in to make sure it happens. We can enhance it, working to increase the odds of it happening or to boost the positive impact. We can share it, maybe by partnering with another company to capture its full value. We can accept it, basically being ready to take advantage of it if it happens, but not actively chasing it. And again, we can escalate it if the opportunity is just too big for our project to handle alone. So let's look at the most proactive one. The exploit strategy is where you really go for it. This is the most aggressive response to a good opportunity. So let's say a world-class designer suddenly becomes available. You don't just sit back and hope they see your job posting. No, with an exploit strategy, you actively change your plan. You contact them directly. You do whatever it takes to bring them onto the team, because you want to guarantee you get that positive impact on your project. Okay, so far we've talked a lot about people and planning for uncertainty. Now we're going to shift gears and talk about the numbers. We've managed our people and our risks. Now it's time to measure the actual health of our project schedule and budget. Let's look at the tools you need to make sure you're delivering what you promised. A really vital concept here is the cost of quality. And it's not just one number, it's a balancing act. On one side of the scale, you have the cost of conformance. This is the money you spend up front to prevent problems. Things like training your team, buying good equipment, or doing quality reviews. On the other side, you have the cost of non-conformance. This is the price you pay when you fail, fixing bugs, rework, dealing with unhappy customers. The whole idea is simple. Every dollar you invest in conformance, in getting it right the first time, will save you a whole lot more in non-conformance costs down the road. Now, one of the most powerful tools in your entire toolkit for measuring performance is Earned Value Analysis, or EVA. And the absolute best way to think about it is like a GPS for your project. Seriously, it doesn't just tell you how much money you've spent. It combines your schedule and your budget to tell you exactly where you are, where you were supposed to be, and where you're headed. It's an amazing tool. Okay, let's start with the core formula from EVA. This is for cost variance, or CV, and you see it right there, EV minus AC. Now don't let the letters scare you. This is actually pretty straightforward.
AC is actual cost. That's the easy one. It's just how much money you've actually spent so far. EV is earned value. This is the key one. EV is the value of the work you've completed measured against your original budget. So for example, if you budgeted $10,000 for a task and you're halfway done, your earned value is $5,000. It doesn't matter how much you've actually spent. So what cost variance tells us is, for the money we've spent, did we get the value we expected?
And here's the best part. Reading the result is super easy. If your cost variance number is positive, you're a hero. You are under budget. If it's negative, you got a problem. You are over budget. Let's use that same example. We earned $5,000 of value, our EV. If our actual cost to get there was only $4,000, our CV is a positive $1,000. We're in great shape. But if we spent $6,000 to get that same $5,000 worth of work done, our CV is a negative $1,000. That negative number is a clean, data-driven alarm bell telling you to go investigate your costs right now.
All right, wow. We have covered a ton of ground here, right? We've gone from people to process to performance. So let's do a quick final recap of the powerful new tools we've just added to your project management toolkit.
So just look at the tools you have at your disposal now. When you're dealing with difficult people, you've got the stakeholder register and the SEAM to build a real fact-based engagement strategy. When the future looks uncertain, you have clear strategies to manage not just the threats, but the opportunities too. And when you absolutely need to know if you're on track, you've got the cost of quality framework and the hard data from earned value analysis to guide your decisions. This is your core toolkit. This is what success looks like.
So I'm going to leave you with this one last question. You have the tools now. They're in your toolbox. Which one are you going to pick up and really master first? Which area? Is it stakeholders? Is it risk? Is it performance? Are you going to focus on to make an immediate positive impact on your very next project? Think about it, and then go make it happen.